What is up, everybody? I am Get Flinged, and today I'm going to be giving you some advice on how you can select your first operators in Rainbow Six Siege. This advice is going to be designed to give beginning players some guidance on which operators they should be directed towards and trying out as they learn the game. I'm going to give you two operators on both attack and defense that I recommend for newer players, tell you why I recommend them, and I'm also going to mention a couple operators that I think new players should stay away from until they learn the game a little bit more. Let's start on the attacking side, and the first operator I'm going to recommend is Sledge. And the reason I recommend Sledge for new players is because I feel like his kit as a whole will make sense to players even if they're not familiar with Rainbow Six Siege necessarily. His gadget is simple yet very, very effective and important. It's just a big hammer that puts holes in soft walls and will give you lines of sight in soft floors. He has a really solid gun option with that L85. It's got nice attachments that you can choose from. He also has frag grenades available to him, and anybody who's played pretty much any FPS ever knows exactly how those work. But the biggest reason I recommend Sledge is because this is an operator that you can grow with. He is played at every skill level in Rainbow Six Siege, from beginners all the way up to Pro League. And as you learn the maps more and get better as a player, you'll only find Sledge more and more useful. The next operator I'm going to recommend on attack is Ace. And the reason that I recommend Ace is because he's one of the most self-reliant operators in the game. He can do a lot of different things all on his own. He can hard breach, he can soft breach if he brings the secondary breaching charges, and he also has a great gun in that AK-12, so his frag potential is very high as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind with Ace is that you will be playing as a hard breach operator, and that means that you do need to work with your team some, okay? If you are attacking an objective that has an exterior hard wall, you might need to hang around outside, drone for your teammates, and put yourself in a position where you can use your utility. Sometimes an entire strat will rely on you opening a wall as Ace, so keep that in mind. But with that said, as a solo queue player, there's not many operators that can do as much as Ace. Moving over to defense now, and I'll go ahead and just say both of these now because they have some similarities that we're going to talk about. On defense, I'm going to recommend Legion and Thorn. The reason that I recommend Legion and Thorn is that they both fall into that trap operator category, and their utility, their gadget, can help new players who are lacking in some situational awareness that comes with time in Siege. With Thorn, she gets 3 of her Razor Bloom shells that she can deploy in the prep phase over tops of doors, under windows, or in hallways. They'll pretty much stick to anything, and if any attacker enters their area of effect, they will go off, making a very loud noise and possibly killing the opponent if they don't get out of the way. Legion has goo mines that are very similar in that they're a trap that makes noise if an enemy steps on them, but he accrues the goo mines over time. By the end of the prep phase, he'll have 2 that he can place. They go invisible once they're placed, or nearly invisible, and then if an attacker steps on them, they make a very loud noise, and the attacker has to actually pull them out or they will start receiving damage. The reason that both of these gadgets are so useful for new players is that they can act as a warning system. As a new player, you don't know where attackers are likely to come from in many situations, so getting these gadgets out and allowing them to give you a warning on where attackers might be coming from can be the difference between you living and dying and being prepared for a potential gunfight. Both Legion and Thorn also have very strong SMGs as well, so once again, we've not only got a great gadget, but also a good gun with high fragging capability as well. Now let me tell you a couple operators that I think you should stay away from, and I'll do one on attack and defense. On defense, I'm going to recommend that you stay away from Caveira, at least at first. Caveira can be very strong, but for a new player who doesn't have very much map knowledge, it's not very likely you're going to get much use out of her. She's strongest when you know the maps, know where attackers are likely to come from. You can use that silent step to your advantage to get a surprise on enemies, and then hopefully get an interrogation off helping your team. But a lot of things have to go right, and you have to be very knowledgeable in order to make that happen. On attack, I'm going to recommend that you stay away from Montaigne. It might seem like a good idea to pick an operator as a new player that you can be behind a shield and be protected, but there's a lot of weaknesses to shields in the game nowadays, and you're not going to be learning some of the valuable mechanics that you need to progress as a player. Playing Monty isn't like playing most other operators, so I think you should learn the base operators first and then move on to shield operators as you get more experienced. Okay, that's going to do it for my recommendations as far as operators for newer players. Last thing I want to say here is make sure you're having fun. The beauty of Siege is in the variety of operators and the different playstyles that they all have. Make sure you're trying different stuff out. Yes, I made recommendations to you here that I think will help click in the very beginning, but you shouldn't be only playing one or two operators for every round. Try different stuff out. See what clicks for you. When you find those operators that you really gel with, Siege becomes much more enjoyable. What is up, everybody? I am Get Flinged, and today we're going to be talking about nonverbal communication in Rainbow Six Siege. These are ways that you can get information for yourself or give information to teammates without giving or receiving callouts. Now, I want to be clear, I am not suggesting that this stuff replace good callouts and good communication verbally in game, but I do understand that some people don't have microphones, some people don't feel comfortable talking on microphones in game, and they might prefer to go this route. Okay, and there's a lot of different tools in Siege to help you do this. We're going to first talk about the ping system, and the ping system on PC is two default buttons to begin with. Okay, Z is what we call yellow ping or contextual ping. And contextual ping means that when you ping an object like this, it not only pings it, but it shows you what it is. This is a normal yellow ping right there, just a ping in a location that has a number with it. Now, you can contextual ping both in person by looking like a frost trap like this, or with a observation tool. And it's the same for any observation tool. I'm on a drone now, but if you were on defense looking through a camera, an evil eye, an attacker looking through an Argus camera, it would be the same. So I can go up, use my ping button on this camera, and it contextually pings it just the same. Again, we'll do it with the frost trap. What's nice about that is your teammates see that anywhere on the map, even through walls. So I can be out here as IQ, get on my drone and ping this frost trap, and again, it shows up anywhere I'm at, and it'll fade after a few seconds. Now, when you're actually in person, you can't ping enemy players, and it doesn't make sense to, because normally if you can see them, why wouldn't you be shooting them? But on an observation tool, you have two options here. You can use the traditional red ping by hitting what's as default X on PC, and that's going to give you a red ping exactly where that person is located. However, if they move, it does not follow them around. Or you can use the yellow ping, and we'll get back on drone and use the yellow ping now. So what would be good with the yellow ping there is to say, to ping them with that and say on one ping, frost, top rafters. A lot of people rely on the yellow ping a little bit too much and don't make good callouts and actually confuse teammates even more. If you just say frost is on ping and a teammate's on the other side of the map, that they don't really know what that means. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're using yellow ping. But yellow ping is a lot safer to use than red ping, because when you use red ping, this frost player gets an alert saying that they've been spotted, and they now know that they need to be looking for a drone or camera somewhere. So if your drone's down here and it's out of sight, you know, the frost player hasn't seen it yet, if you use the yellow ping instead of the red ping, you can get a pretty accurate ping on an enemy location there, and the frost isn't alerted, so she's not going to be looking for the drone. So be aware of a situation where a red ping and a yellow ping works better than the other. If it's very late in the round, the last 10-15 seconds of a round, red ping, go ahead, that's probably the better choice. But if you're on a Valkyrie camera that's hidden early in the round, it's better to use a yellow ping. That way you don't alert the enemy players that they need to be looking for that camera. I have IQ here, and she can actually use the ping system through her gadget, which is really neat. So we have that bulletproof camera up there. I can use IQ's scanner and then use the ping to locate and give a contextual ping through walls. Again, all my teammates see that. Another example would be there's a static camera out there. I can use it there to again ping for all my team and myself. That can be useful to ping certain things through soft floors, have a teammate try to shoot them and destroy them through soft floors. There's a lot of really good uses for that. Okay, so we covered contextual ping, we covered IQ's gadget and how you can use that to ping as well. Let's go into an in-game example and show another way that you can gain information even when your teammates aren't giving good callouts. On the screen right now, you're seeing some gameplay, and pay attention to my teammate outline on the right. That's a bandit. And when you have teammate outlines like this, it's not going to tell you necessarily where an enemy is, but it can tell you where they aren't. If your teammate is in a room and it's a small room, then you can pretty safely assume most of the time there's not an enemy in that room, and you can start doing like a process of elimination. It doesn't mean it's safe, and it's not guaranteed information. Right there, the bandit died, and that's another piece of nonverbal communication right there that you get whenever a teammate dies. Their skull will pop up showing you where they were when they died. I've heard people call it an X before, but it looks like a skull there, and that's telling you where your teammate died. Again, not telling you where an enemy is, but sometimes you can use that information and the sounds that you heard when your teammate died to assess where an enemy is likely to be based upon where your teammate died from. Okay, that's all I wanted to go over as far as nonverbal communication in Siege. At the end of the day, developing your ability to communicate with your team, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, is one of the most important skills you can develop as a player. Hopefully this will get you started and get your mind working on how you can get better yourself. What is up, everybody? I'm Get Flanked. Today I'm going to be talking about how you can practice your movement and shooting mechanics as a new Rainbow Six Siege player. We're going to be heading into the training grounds to play an elimination match, and I'll be talking about what I think you should be focusing on as you're practicing. But first, we got to check out some settings, okay? There are some settings here in the options that are specific to training grounds. If you go to matchmaking preferences here, you can select which game mode you actually play in the training grounds. The two that I would recommend would be either elimination or protect hostage. Protect hostage is going to be playing as a defender with the AI bots coming at you. Elimination is going to be playing as an attacker with you going into the map after AI bots that are spread out around the map. The next thing that I would have you do is change this to headshot only. That's going to make your practice more important and make sure that you're focusing on good crosshair placement, as well as making sure that your shots count instead of just spraying and praying. The next thing you're going to want to do here is look at the maps that you have selected. I turn everything off except for Coastline. Coastline is my favorite training grounds map, but for a new player, I would suggest that you pick one of the core maps like Clubhouse, turn it on and practice that for maybe like a week until you learn it and have the good, a good feel for the layout. Then you can turn that one off and switch it to another core map and kind of go through that way. That way you're not only practicing your movement and your shooting mechanics, but you're learning the maps as you go. That's very important. With that said, let's jump into elimination on training grounds right now. Okay, here we go. Lone Wolf elimination, normal difficulty on Coastline. And when you're selecting your operator, make sure you're using one that you actually use in game and that you enjoy playing. That way you're getting used to their weapon recoil, you're getting used to their attachments, you get some practice with their gadget as well as you go along here. Just makes it more efficient. Now, I'm going to give you a couple things to focus on as you're practicing in training grounds when it comes to your movement and shooting. And the first thing we'll talk about is the leaning mechanic in Siege. So let's open this door up. And the only thing I really want you to focus on in the beginning is just making sure that you're leaning the right way. So if you're approaching this door edge from this side, make sure you're leaning to the left as you come around and not to the right. If you're leaning like this and coming around this edge, you're going to expose a lot of your body before you actually get line of sight. And that's a perfect example right there. If you lean this way and you come around, then you'll get vision around the corner with just a very small portion of your hitbox actually exposed. Okay, the next thing I want you to focus on is spending a significant amount of your time walking around ADS. And I think that's a little bit different than other FPSs. I feel like you spend more time ADS and moving around in Siege than you do in other games. But I think it's very important. As I'm going to enter a big room here, okay? I'm gonna be clearing this room with my sights up. That way I can snap onto a target quickly and get shots accurately downrange very fast, okay? So we don't wanna walk into a room like this. That's the big thing. We want to walk into the room ADS and ready for a fight, and we're kind of clearing as we go across. So this is all clear now. We're gonna keep ADS and clearing this room until we go across. Keep clearing, okay. Now we've cleared over there. We'll head this way where we see an enemy, okay. And that's how you wanna be moving through these maps. Just clearing with your sights up. We'll keep moving down this hallway now. Sights are up, trying to clear all the nooks and crannies in all these rooms. We see somebody there, and this is another area you can kind of focus on. Get squared up to these corners as you come around them. You don't want to come around this corner like this and then be turning. Instead, you got that information, square up to it, come around, and that's a much better way to peek that corner rather than coming around like this and then turning. So keeping those three things in mind, you're gonna keep moving through the map, trying to clear as much as you can with your sights up. Focus on leaning the right way, exposing as little of your hitbox as you can when clearing corners and going into areas. Also, try to focus on getting that information, squaring yourself up to these corners, and paying attention to where your crosshair is. That's one of the most important things that determines who's going to win a gunfight in Siege, is crosshair placement. And granted, these bots, they're not going to be in your necessarily like the typical places that players will be, but they do give you a good indication as far as like head height when it comes to kneeling, when it comes to standing. Okay, so at this point we are down to the last 3 enemies. Usually they will start running at you at this point, so you can use this as a good opportunity to listen to sound cues and start learning how that sound, directional sound, works in Siege. And that's good practice as well. So again, all this stuff that as if you practice it as you go, it just makes the training grounds experience much more efficient, and your time spent here very, very useful. All right, so there you have it. That's how I suggest you practice in training grounds. Work on that movement, work on those shooting mechanics. Hopefully in no time, you will be snapping on people and have that really good aim in Siege. What is up, everybody? I'm GetFlanged. Today I'm going to be giving some tips on how new players can find the right sensitivity and keybinds for them in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, anytime you're talking about sensitivity, you're going to be talking about some personal preference. Different people prefer different sensitivities, but I do have some drills here that'll hopefully be a shortcut for you to find your comfort zone in the game. I think the best place to start is to go into keybinds. We'll talk about a few things there and how to actually adjust your sensitivity, and then we'll go over some drills in game that'll help you find if it's right for you or not. So we're gonna go to options and we're gonna go to controls. And the first thing right here is this is how you actually adjust your sensitivity. Now, this is adjusting your sensitivity when non-ADS. That's what these numbers are. So this is this sensitivity. This is ADS sensitivity. All right, going back into options here. So this is where I have mine set. Now, here is where you adjust ADS sensitivity, and you've got 2 options. You've got standard. This is going to give you one option as far as adjusting your sensitivity. And keep in mind that when you do this, you're adjusting an overall sensitivity, and then all of these sensitivities will be different. Even though they show the same number here, the amount that you move with one time scope is going to be different than a 1.5, 2.0, 2.5. Okay, it's going to kind of adjust your sensitivities across the board there. You also have an advanced, which is what I use, and this allows you to adjust your sensitivities on each of these magnifications manually. There are websites that you can go to and will give you kind of a number you can type in your base sensitivity, and if you want your sensitivity to be the same across all these magnifications, it'll give you numbers that you type in here. That's how I did this, and that's what I prefer. So you have to kind of decide what you want there, and again, that's going to be personal preference. Going down into some other adjustments you can make here. Gadget deployment. Okay, this is important. I prefer advanced, and this is what I recommend, because when you deploy your gadget with advanced, you can hold it in your hands and then decide where you want to put it. Whereas with standard, you kind of hit the button and then it deploys when you hit the button. And advanced is just going to give you a little bit more control over where you're placing gadgets, and I think that's important. Drone deployment, I recommend advanced as well. The difference between standard and advanced here is that with advanced, when you throw out a drone, it's not going to put you into the observation automatically. You have to hit another button to go into the observation. So this gives you the ability to bait with your drone. If you think an enemy is close, you can throw a drone out and see if maybe that causes them to push you, and then you can have your sights up. Also, if you throw your drone out and see an enemy come around a corner, you won't go into the observation automatically, and you can still fight back. So I think that's important. The only other thing that I really want to talk about here is under customized controls, and this is where you go and you can mess with all of your keybinds. The one thing that I do recommend that you change no matter what is secondary gadget. Okay, I think that you should put this on your mouse if you're a PC player, because this is how you throw grenades, and if it by default it's going to be on G, and if you leave it on G, then when you pull out a grenade, it makes it really tough to strafe right and hold the grenade. So I put it on my mouse, that way I can pull the grenade, hold it, and I still have full control of my character while I'm holding the grenade. I think that's really important. All right, let's get back into training grounds here and talk about some drills to help you zero in on that sensitivity. Now you know where to adjust it. Here's what I like to do. I like to find 2 random objects on the map. So we'll pick this tree in this tree, and we're going for the actual trunks of the tree, and just start moving between them, okay? And you want to try and move relatively fast and trying to land on them as you flick between them, okay? Now, if you find yourself starting on this tree and ending up over here, and then you go back and you end up over here and you're going past it every single time, that can mean that your sensitivity is a bit too high. You might want to adjust it down. If you find yourself landing short and not getting the full distance between them, that can mean your sensitivity needs to be turned up a little bit more so that you're covering more ground as you're turning. Don't stay on the same object the whole time. So you do a little bit here. Now let's find 2 objects here. So we'll go with these 2 trees. So from here to here. And you want to try to be as precise as possible so that you're landing on there. And finding if you're overshooting or undershooting consistently. Okay, and again, keep finding different objects, find ones that are farther apart. So these 2 trees right here are pretty close together. So you can see I'm overshooting a little bit. If I was a new player here and doing this, I would probably adjust my sensitivity a little bit. Maybe I'll adjust my sensitivity even as a veteran. But that's really how you can kind of zero in and find that comfort zone, okay? Now we're in training grounds, we can go in, we can move around, we can go after some bots and see how this sensitivity feels. We can keep tweaking it until we feel really good with our sensitivity. I do recommend once you feel comfortable, stick with it for a couple days, unless it feels awful, unless something really bad's happening, you know, make sure that you're giving it a chance to register. Don't have just one bad gunfight and then change it. That's really my tips for finding your sensitivity and keybinds there. I hope this is useful for you, and you get in there and you turn into an aiming all-star in Siege in no time.